Guys, saving time and saving hassles on the water is a huge thing, and there's nothing more frustrating than being out fishing, especially when you're out on fish, going to pull your trolling motor cable up and it snaps. It'll drive you nuts, and it can be pretty dangerous, especially if you're in some nastier water and you're trying to get that motor up or trying to deploy that motor. So it's always good to plan ahead. There's a great new product out from T&H Marine, and it's the G-Force handle. You've probably seen it around. It's very cool, and it's the last trolling motor handle and cable you will ever buy. I'm one of those guys that once he breaks the original, I was replacing with some cheap rope that I got from Home Depot, and basically it was almost like clockwork. Every month and a half, I would need to go ahead and replace that, and it always seemed to happen at the worst possible time. That's not going to happen anymore with this guy. It's a steel stranded cable, super solid, very little stretch, so it's going to give you better leverage on actually popping out that pin when you go to lift and deploy the motor. It's an ergonomic handle. It's just going to be a lot less hassles, a lot less worry, and in the end they retail for about $37, $38. You're going to pay a lot less for this one handle than you are for all that rope and all that wasted time on the water. So I'm going to run through real quick. I got a Minn Kota edge right here. I'm going to go ahead and pop this thing off, and we're going to run through how to install one of these. It's real simple, real quick, and like I said, it's going to be the last time I'm going to have to replace this rope. So let's get it going. First thing you're going to want to do is go ahead, and you probably don't need to do it, but you're probably going to want to take off your trolling motor. It's just going to be easier. So just go ahead and loosen up the clamp right here. And then we're going to go ahead, we're going to lift her off. Alright, the first thing once we got the motor off that we're going to need to do is we're going to have to actually take off the old rope. So let's go ahead, we're going to have to cut into this connection right here and just cut that rope off. Best tools you're probably going to need a little needle nose as well as just a plain old scissors. So let's go ahead and get that knot out using. This just makes it a little more accessible. And then we can take that scissors, kind of saw down on the knot. And slide her on out. Set that guy aside for now. Alright guys, now that we got the trolling motor off, as well as the old pulley cable, we're going to go through what's probably the hardest part, and that's threading the new cable. The one thing to keep in mind when you're doing this is these guys work the exact opposite of what you would normally do with a replacement cable. And what that means is instead of threading it through the hole to the pulley, you're actually going to thread it from the pulley out through the hole. First step before we do that though, we want to take the cable, and there's two washers, a smaller and a larger, that come with the package. You're going to go ahead and on the cut end of the cable, slide the small one first, followed by the larger washer. Right there. Slide them all the way down, and they'll stop at the little ball on the end of the cable, right there. Once that's done, we can go ahead and start threading. You're going to want to thread from the cut end first. So let's go ahead and let's take that and let's get it threaded in. Alright, so we have our cable with our little ball and our washers set. We need to go ahead and we're going to be threading right through here, right through the pulley, in the opposite direction of what you would normally thread your replacement cable. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the cut end and slide it through. Good tools to do this are scissors. You can run it on the side through the Minn Kota and help to push that cable in the correct direction. Like I said, this is probably the hardest step of the entire process, which is not that bad. And we're going to get that threaded through. A needle nose pliers is also going to help you to guide the cable, because a lot of it is kind of threading it out in the correct, the exact same way you had your original pulley. So we're going to go ahead and turn it and begin to work it through, and then just kind of feed the cable to get us started. On the main coda, there's a small roll bar. I believe there's also one on the motor guide. You want to make sure you go under that so that the lift pressure is on the bottom. That's what normally breaks your cables and causes most of the wear and tear. We just did that, so we're just going to keep on threading until we arrive at the guide right here. And we're going to go ahead and thread it right through that guide and pull our cable the rest of the way through until it locks in position. And then we can give it a little test to make sure, and she's pulling just nice. So that's step 2. Just remember, we're going the opposite direction of a normal cable. We're going to use a needle nose and a scissors, basically a smaller, kind of a longer, slender object to sort of guide that cable. And that's about the hardest step that we're going to go through. Alright, last but not least, we got to go ahead and we got to install the handle, the ergonomic handle. And this is a real simple process. We've installed our cable, and what we need to do is take the cut end of that cable, and there's a small crosswise marking on the inside of the handle and a small hole at the bottom. What we need to do is go ahead and take the cable and slide it through the handle until it's visible through that cross holding. In the package, you have a small octagonal nut, an Allen key, and 2 small threaded crimps. Very small, so pay attention as to not lose them or not get them mixed with other things, because they're very easy to get lost. First, we're going to take our small octagonal nut, this guy right here, and we're going to slide it over the end of the cut cable, just like that. So she's slid on. She's still going to be very loose on there, but just make sure she's in there all the way. Then we're going to take the first of our small, very small little threaded crimps and go ahead and start working it in. It's probably easiest if you take the Allen wrench and simply insert it on the Allen wrench like that, and then go ahead and take your nut and begin to screw it on in. We're not going to over tighten it quite yet. We're just going to go ahead and put her in there. And we're going to take the other one, once again, slide it onto the Allen key, just like that, and thread it in. And go ahead and tighten it just until she's basically tight. Always ensuring that this cap is fully down on the cable. Once that's done, once we got both of them in there and they're pretty solid, we're going to go ahead and we'll tighten them down. Alright guys, we're almost there. Our process is pretty much done when it comes to installation. We got the handle on, we got the cable threaded, everything's tightened down, and she's locked up and ready to go. The last step we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, and as I mentioned, there's a small cross section in the inside of the handle. You're simply going to pull your crimp all the way through so it's nice and flush, you can't see it. Ensure that she's not spinning, and the handle's ready to go. Now all we need to do is install the trolling motor back into the clamp, and we're ready for the water. Let's get finished off. Alright guys, trolling motor's back in, handle's all installed, she's ready to deploy, we're ready to get on the water. One thing to mention just at the end, the cable length isn't going to be right for everybody. Real easy fix for that. Grab yourself a wire cutters, cut it down as much as you want, go ahead and place that crimp back on there and adjust it. But this is going to save you a ton of time on the water. T&H Marine, G-force handle. No more changing out trolling motor cables, no more breaking them in the middle of fishing. No more wasted time at a real reasonable price. Check them out on Boat Tech and get you one. I'm gonna be a lot happier, man. I can tell you that much. All right, guys, tight lines.